Start by saying what is the core service, and many of us, of course, know the core services. It's providing services to individuals with a range of significant disabilities from cross-disability, multicultural populations. Two parts about that, cross-disability. I think many times historically, centers have been stereotyped into the perception that we only serve people with physical disabilities. I know up until about 3 years ago, Ability 360 with our old name and our old logo had a picture of a person in a wheelchair. And so to the community, that logo no doubt indicated or gave the perception that we were only serving people with physical disabilities. And that's, as we know here in this room, furthest from the truth. So we're working with people with cognitive impairments as well as sensory, the vision and the hearing. And so we need to communicate that to the community, to everybody out there, other service providers, to families, individuals, the whole 9 yards, okay? So that's really important to be cross-disability. Now, having said that, you may have some strengths and weaknesses. Okay, maybe there's some deficits in maybe really being an expert in the deaf and hard of hearing culture. Okay, you need to look in the mirror and perhaps take a peek at building that up, or the deaf and hard of hearing folks. Okay, so take a look at that from a cross disability perspective. The multicultural. Again, this is not just race and ethnicity, but I think it's truly, more of a term that's being used as intersectionality. Okay, so that's covering the full range from gender identity to LGBTQIA to your race and ethnicity, the whole 9 yards, that we need to be inclusive. And for those of you who are making any type of hiring decisions, have your staff be reflective of the community and really to do that outreach. And I'll just be transparent about our center. We're always looking at ways to better ourselves in serving the Hispanic community. I think, for our team of 4 that we have for independent living skills, none of the 4 are Hispanic. Okay, that's just being transparent and right now our staffing. So, but that would enhance our ability to really do that outreach. So that being a part of, who we are and who we're trying to serve, that cross-disability, multicultural. So the core services, as we know here, are the information referral, we'll talk about that, independent living skills training, the third one being the peer counseling, which is cross-disability peer counseling, and then individual and systems advocacy, with the 5th one now being services that facilitate the transition. This is kind of a 3-pronged deal, and for those of you who are new, that transition, that 5th core, can be kind of confusing because it's not just a one definition, 3-pronged. One is facilitate the transition of individuals with significant disabilities from nursing home and other institutions to home and community-based residences. Okay, moving people out. And, I think to me, it's really easy to go to funders for these types of positions, because we can show data that says, on average, whether you're in Wyoming or if you're in Anaheim and, wherever you're at, on average, you move somebody out of an institution to the community, you're saving, here's a visual for you. You're saving a lot of wallet, a lot of money, taxpayer money. You're saving, average, about $40,000. $40,000 per year per person. Now, when you can actually measure that, let's say you get 10 people out a year, almost one a month, you're helping to save $400,000 of taxpayer money. That you can take to the funder and say, look, for the position that we're funding here, look at your return. That's huge. When we work with insurance providers and say, look, you can continue to pay for institutions, but maybe you have a couple $1,000s of transition money to help people get out, and we can help with that from a staffing standpoint. You're saving 40 grand a year. Now, I don't care what your hot button is, whether you're a bean counter, if you're want to do the right thing, and your heart's. It doesn't matter what your touch point is. The argument is on our side to do it, and we need to articulate that. That's huge. The second part is to provide assistance to individuals with significant disabilities who are at risk of entering institutions, so that individuals may remain in the community. This one isn't as easy to quantify, but it's important to still do it. So you can argue that independent living skills help to keep people out of nursing homes, because knowledge is power. And when you do IL classes or one-on-ones, that helps to really give people the confidence and the skills in themselves so that they can stay out of nursing homes. And so it may be peer mentoring. You have a mentor that's out in the community, and you're really helping folks to have that confidence. Like, okay, maybe a new disability, life has changed, but it's not over. Okay, with that peer mentoring, with the independent living skills, with these other services, I can stay here in the community where I want to be, as opposed to going to the nursing homes. See where I'm going with this? Again, it doesn't matter what your hot button is. The argument is on our side to do it, to keep people out. Now, I had a conversation with Paul from Nashville earlier this morning about how we measure outcomes. And we were saying, too, that if you're manufacturing widgets and gidgets, that's easy to quantify. You have outcomes that are, I produced 1,000 widgets. That's easy. But how do you quantify keeping someone out of a nursing home? And how do you do it consistently from center to center? So that's really important to do, to really know what you're quantifying, how to do it consistently, no matter what database system you're using. That's important. The third part of this transition is to facilitate the transition of youth who are individuals with significant disabilities who are eligible for IEPs, individual education plans, and who have completed their secondary education or otherwise left school to post-secondary life. Sometimes transition can be misunderstood as those teenage years from 14 to 21 while you're in school. But this mandate under the fifth core says after graduation, after high school, transitioning to the community. That's a part of the deal here. Why INR is a core service, and again, this is brand new information. We didn't talk about it yesterday. Okay. Its primary means to promoting consumer empowerment, supports an individual's capacity of self-reliance and self-determination. And according to AIRS, the Alliance of Information Referral Systems, it says education, affirmation, collaborative planning, and problem solving. And provides a roadmap for navigating complex and confusing systems, INR. So the INR service, the human approach, it's the first point of entry. And as I said, excuse me, I always think is INR is the gateway arch in St. Louis. Gateway to the west, gateway to your center. It's the first point. The consumers contact their INR specialist for programs and services offered within the SIL for independent living skills, advocacy, peer support, and other services. but it's that first point of entry. The resources offered in the community for housing, employment, financial assistance, healthcare, transportation. I know for Ability 360, our information referral person is here, and she has told me that the most difficult calls are the ones that are asking for housing and you have no viable answer. You really, right? Yes. Okay, yeah. And again, I don't care if you're in Massachusetts, Alabama, Georgia, wherever you're at. It's the same deal, you know, and I can, you know, ask show of hands and all that about how many people have their housing authorities waiting lists closed. Are they not accepting new applications? Okay. A lot of hands. Those that have applications in, is it typical for in your community to have waiting lists of 1 to 4 years? Okay, yeah. So the frustration then in that initial call to your center, that first point of contact, your entrance, the point of entry is, how do you give a good answer? You know, I'm homeless, I'm in the shelter, I'm on the streets, bless you, I'm on the streets. What the heck do I do? What do I do? What kind of, you know, well, I can say, do you have a family member or a friend that you can be a roommate with? Do you have, you know, what? You know, what are your answers? And there are not many good ones. But what you want to do is come up with some sort of answer. And right now I'm you know, drawing a blank on this, but it's, you want to give people some hope. Not false hope, not rose-colored glasses and, you know, make something up. You want to give them accurate information. But you want to just give them something that they can take away. And you all are getting those calls, and we can have a discussion later about what are you doing with those calls? What kind of options are you giving folks? You know, we say that the 3 most difficult barriers to keeping someone integrated in the community is employment, housing, and transportation. Right? You want to have a job for financial independence, you want to have a home for community independence, and you want transportation for mobility independence. You get those 3 dialed in, you can be integrated pretty well in the community. And then you have your health care and other things. But when we talk about the housing piece again, I mean, I talked to Robbie from Denver, and he's, you know, saying how much, you know, $1,000 for a small studio and, you know, in Denver because the housing prices have gone up. That's high, but it's probably not uncommon for a lot of communities. Your rate of income in the area versus the rent. You've probably, this morning's news again, heard that Arizona teachers are on strike because we are the lowest paying state in the nation for our teachers. And folks, in this valley, right here, a few blocks away, we have educators living in their cars because they can't afford housing. Where's our priority as a nation? I'm diverting a little bit, but it's about housing and the options as an I&R coordinator to give people information. Customer service. For I&R specialists to succeed in providing relevant information, they must possess knowledge and consumer service skills. You may have good information, but if you're not relaying it to people in a good customer service manner, that information is pointless in my book. And what does that mean? Know what you can and know what you cannot do for the consumer. Don't make stuff up. Don't make promises that you can't keep. And make sure that what you're putting out there is accurate, because it's so frustrating for us and for many of you to say, well, Well, the other agency down the street told me that you could do this. Where'd they get that idea? We don't provide that. We don't provide that here. Well, they told me that you could. So now they're disappointed because we're not providing a service that we don't provide. Because somebody down the street said we do. Well, yeah, we can do that. Know what you can and know what you cannot do, and be honest with people. Let them know your boundaries and parameters. It's okay. Amina talked about that as well, about being good with your boundaries and your parameters as a staff person, as an individual. I firmly believe that agencies give vacation time off for a reason. And when I hear people say, well, I can't afford to take the time off because I have so much preparation before I go and then I've got a boatload after I get back. Vacations are always good. Time off is always good. But know your parameters, know your boundaries and what you can and cannot do as well. And let them down easy if you need to. Listening skills. Listen and understand the consumer's issues. Initially, they may tell you, I need rent assistance. You may be on the phone for 3 minutes and find out that that's really not their issue at all. It may be a mental health problem. You've got to dig below the surface to really fully understand what the issues are, the underlying issues. Because if you just, throw a deposit check at them, have you really resolved their issue? Probably not. Let this person speak without interruptions. If they have a speech impairment or if there are cognitive issues or if they're your spouse, let them finish. Just checking to see if you're awake, okay? Let people finish their own sentences, Let people finish their own question. It may not be what you thought, right? Okay. And be non-biased in your suggestions. If it's for spiritual reasons, religious reasons, for, whatever their background is, it's their goal, not yours. When we come back and, say, well, at the end of the day, I saved 5 people today. I feel great and pat myself on the back. Well, did you really save people? No. But you offer information and do it unbiasedly. Communication skills. Relay information clearly and concisely to consumers over the phone. Have good written skills for consumers who choose to communicate by email or TTY. And when you're face-to-face with someone, show proper body language that's consistent with the matter at hand. Do not get into a conversation where you're not focused. If you're in a meeting with somebody, if it's an information referral or IL skills, whatever the meeting, focus on where you're at. Do not get focused about your 1 o'clock appointment or what you need to do this weekend. Do not do that. Multitasking is BS. Because you do everything halfway. I'm being videotaped, that's why. So when you're with someone, it's always been said that nonverbal communication is 70 to 90% of all messages. Only that small percentage are the words that you actually use. So your body language needs to be consistent with, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm with you. De-escalation or crisis management. Don't take matters personally. Like, oh boy, I did a crappy job with this, or whatever. Maybe it's somebody has issues before they came into the room with you, with somebody else. But you can't take it personally. Because, here's the question. Here's the question. When you have a consumer And I don't care if it's with information referral, what your program is. And the consumer says to you, you're the professional. If you were me, what would you do? If you were me in my shoes, what would you do? Do not answer the question, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because here's two things that could happen. If you tell someone what to do, and it goes well, it was Daryl. He's such a brilliant professional. He knows what he's doing, so it's all his credit. That's not where the credit belongs. Conversely, if I tell someone what to do, and it doesn't go well, Christensen, he's an idiot. Doesn't know what he's talking about. It's all his fault. Either way, you've taken the responsibility off the consumer's shoulders and put it on your own. That's not where it belongs. So what you need to do is say, you know what, it really doesn't matter. And I'm being very polite about this. It doesn't matter what I think you should do. Most importantly, what do you want to do? And I will help you kind of walk through the pros and cons. Maybe that checklist of here's what I can do, here's what pros and cons. Help you walk through that. And then they can come up with their own answer. Let the person vent without interruptions. Make sure the consumer knows that you're there to help. Utilize the other sources around you, maybe other coworkers, other programs, whatnot, and offer to follow up at a later date. And if you promise to do that, then you'd earn well better. Right? Time management and prioritizing responses. Establish routines and stick to them as much as possible. Get in the habit of setting time limits. Again, somebody comes into your office and they want to share about what happened in the fourth grade. And this is what happened to me with my teacher in the fifth grade. And then 20 minutes later, here's what happened at graduation from high school. How can I help you today? How can I help you today? How can I help you today? That's where you can help to redirect that person back to the issue at hand. You want to be respectful, give them time to vent or whatever, but then you also need to move things along. Get in the habit of setting time limits with that, as I said. Utilizing a day planner or Outlook calendar to schedule events and follow-up calls. I get so torqued by staff who set appointments with people and then just either double book or they don't use their calendars correctly and they have to reschedule. To me, that's really rude, and that's not good customer service. It's just not. A lot of times what we'll do is make the phone call to the consumer before we leave for a home visit, just to make sure that they're still there. Because there's nothing worse, as you know, to drive out to a home visit and nobody's there, right? Or you get out there and it's like, oh man, I forgot all about our meeting. I have to go to the doctor's office in 5 minutes. Okay? So you can save yourself a lot of angst by calling ahead of time and saying, hey, just checking in. I'm about to leave the office. I'll be there in a half hour. Very cool. Keep your resources close at hand so you don't waste time searching for them. Record keeping and data management helps to ensure accountability. If you don't document something, it didn't happen. And if things don't happen, then you can't go to a funder and say that it did. Facilitates long-term planning and resource allocation. A couple examples in identifying possible systems advocacy. So let's say you get 23 referrals to energy assistance, but only 6 receive the assistance. That's accountability. Increase contacts for transportation resources after the only accessible taxi in town is gone. That's used for planning and resource allocation. And 10 calls regarding lack of effective communication for medical appointments that systems advocacy. Helps to decide when an INR becomes something more than just that. Again, the INR isn't always the sexiest thing, but it's the gateway to so many other services. I know, you love that sexy thing, right? I know. Trying to comfort someone, okay. Yeah, okay, yeah, I know. So, it opens up to maybe a home modification, to a personal assistance, to a peer mentoring, to a new consumer service record, opening up for independent living skills. It can open up to many of the services within your own walls, just from an INR. Think in terms of that. And when you're going to transfer someone to another staff member, make darn sure that they're eligible for that program, and that they really are someone who can help you. In other words, know your services internally. And then it'll also provide verifiable data for funding requests, grant proposals, and policy initiatives. Prioritizing responses, a few more here. Consider the consumer's needs, look at their deadlines, what are the resources available at the moment, and as I said, is there another team member who can assist? Keep your planner and daily calendar close by to avoid overlapping of tasks, and don't forget your other consumers. If you have 2 or 3 appointments scheduled in one day, be mindful of your time so that you don't have to call and say, I'm running 45 minutes late because of a previous meeting. Use your time wisely. That's good customer service. Good customer service keeps our doors open and keeps you employed. Follow-up and customer relations. Timely follow-up and callbacks are simple ways to show that you care and value them as a consumer. In the past, we've had volunteers and part-time paid folks to do the follow-up calls for the 300 INR calls that we get each month. Hey, just checking in. Was the information helpful? And do you need anything else from us? It can be that simple. And that is good customer service. It can help to draw people into their center and into the whole community. Follow-up can earn you additional open consumers, which means additional agency revenue. And think about it too. How do you feel when a business you solicited from follows up with you? Hey, just checking in to see how you like your new Elantra. Are you satisfied? Was the salesman good? Provided good? Okay, well, that's cool. Not to be harassed or hassled with it, but just good follow-up. That's my portion.
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how we do INR at ABLE. So this is Hope. Hope answers the phone, but she also provides information referral. And the way that our office works is we have 3 information referral specialists, and we all share one phone system. So our Greenville office and our Columbia office, we can actually transfer calls back and forth to each other to make it easy. So we've got a person answering the phone in Columbia taking information referral calls, and somebody in Greenville too, and then we're able to transfer. Just want to show you, Hope is an individual with a disability. That is our lobby area of our Columbia office. And notice the colors real quick. Happy, cheerful, youth-friendly, but also friendly for adults as well. We have little inexpensive decorations in our office. We have some pendant lighting just to fancy the place up a little bit. It's got Edison bulbs. Just little things that you can really perk up your environment. But when people walk in, Hope automatically welcomes people and changes perspectives immediately. I'm going to tell you a little story about Valentine's Day this year. We had 2 people that we blew the minds of the poor florist. he delivered flowers to 2 of our staff members. One was Hope and one was Dory Tempio, and they both used wheelchairs. Well, the florist was just, his mind was blown that people with disabilities get flowers, and we're in relationships. So we love those experiences when people just come in our office and we're like, what's going on here? It's run by people with disabilities. You can do this? And then we're obviously educating them that way as well. Relationships? What? All right, so a little bit about how our information and referral staff works. They are front-end staff, so they're answering the phone, providing information and referral. They are the first point of contact for introduction to IL. So when people come in to our organization for meetings, we have a lot of statewide meetings that state agencies come in for different coalition meetings within our organization. We're kind of changing that perspective and introducing IL. But also when she's providing services on the telephone, or any of our IR staff, they're able to relate in a way that no other agency can. A lot of times we get calls that someone will say, well, I can't work because I have a disability. And we're like, well, have you really looked at it? Because, we have a disability too, and we're obviously working. So, having those connections immediately. We eliminate frustration. Sometimes when people call us, we're one of the last agencies that they have called, and they've been transferred to different agencies because nobody has an answer. So what we try to do is we try to eliminate that frustration by researching and finding them an answer. We're never going to say we can't find something, because we're going to help them through that whole entire process. It starts with consumer-driven services. When parents or when providers call us, we make it very clear that the consumer has to be involved in their case, and that a lot of times we ask to talk to them over the phone to see if they would like services from us, because we're not going to provide services to somebody who doesn't want services from us, because do you think they're going to achieve their goals? No, if they don't want to be there, they're not going to achieve it. But sometimes we can also introduce them to our services and get them excited, and usually the answer is they do want to receive our services. They also conduct intakes and enter data, so they actually put the caller's information into SIL suites. They identify needs. They explore what services they're looking for. What are they needing assistance with becoming independent? And that information referral decides if it's going to be an information and referral case, or if it's going to be more of a one-on-one IL services. We researches resources, so making sure that the resources that are provided are accurate and are going to work. This was a question earlier, but we do collect separate satisfaction surveys for information referral and for IL services, and also our community trainings. We provide follow-up. We refer to IL staff if one-on-one services are needed. So what happens when the information referral specialist has an intake and that it needs more one-on-one IL services, that intake goes to the lead independent living specialist, who then looks at it and sees who would be best to work with this individual. And then all Able South Carolina staff, we all provide information referral, and especially when someone becomes a one-on-one consumer, but also when we're networking and working with other agencies, we're providing that INR constantly. So good things that you have to have within your organization is have a system for where your community resources are. Have it be accessible to all of your staff. And so we have a shared drive within our organization that has all of the community resources listed. We update our resources often. This is a really good intern project to do, but also as staff are out in the community and learning about new resources, we make sure that they come back and tell us about it and put it into that system. And then we network. We collaborate with everyone, and we research the services that are available to our consumers. So going to those resource fairs, and making sure our staff is talking and starting those relationships with all of the service providers within our area. to learn about their services to better help our consumers. And then referral sources should be appropriate. And so this is something that we make sure is our resources and our database are only to assist people with becoming independent. We're not going to provide resources to anywhere that's restrictive, that's sheltered workshop, that's really not meeting our philosophy. I mean, that's for a number of reasons. That could be another agency providing those resources because that's not what we believe in and that's definitely not what we're about. We make sure that the programs that we're referring to are fully accessible and inclusive. And sometimes when these programs aren't, we try to obviously outreach to those agencies to teach them about becoming fully inclusive to all people with disabilities. And then we have a no wrong door approach. We want to make sure that they're satisfied. They're one of us. They're in our community. And so we want to make sure that they're feeling like they're getting what they need from our services. And information referral. And then good INR can significantly improve someone's life. And in this INR process, we've had, and I'm going to share a story about one of our consumers. We had someone who was probably about 22 years old that called one time and said, hey, I need a nursing home to live in. And so our staff explored, why do you feel like you need to live in a nursing home? And come to find out, she just graduated with her bachelor's. She didn't have a job yet. She, had so much that she needed to learn to how to become independent that it was just fear that was trying to put her. She was fearful to live in the community, so she just thought that a placement would be good. So we actually started to work with her. If we worked with her, we assisted her with becoming employed, providing IL services, and she now has a full-time job with our local transportation company, owns a house. Pretty independent, but that information, if I had a really poor staff providing INR, they could have provided a resource to a nursing home, and this young lady's life could have been destroyed. So Daryl was mentioning follow-up. Follow-up is a must. It supports and empowers our consumers to make sure, a lot of times there has been no accountability. People with disabilities are often not held to any expectations, and they're used to people doing things for them. We're not going to do it for you. We're going to give you the tools to do for yourself, but we're also going to start trying to hold you accountable. So checking on the consumer and making sure that they followed up with the resource and if the resource was appropriate. If it wasn't appropriate, we'll assist with navigating those resources, looking for something else, and having them kind of take the lead on what else could work for them. And we provide encouragement, and I think that's important for our INR staff, letting them know that they can do this. And kind of be that cheerleader to get them to take the lead. And then, of course, again, just accountability. It's great to learn that when people do follow up with the services, they take that as a win for themselves because they did something for themselves, and then celebrating that success with them. And then follow up is obviously what Daryl said, good customer service. You want to make sure that people are happy with your services. That's how you get your reputation. And because those consumers are talking to other service providers, other community members, possible funders. And so you want to make sure that you're always protecting your organization and making sure that you have a great reputation. And here, see how quick that was. And here are some INR resources. So any questions? Get a mic to you. Oh, here's one.
No.
That's probably it.
That's probably it.
You had your example about morning it's running again. The person calling about wanting to find out what a nursing home would be, be good for them. It reminded me of a call we had, and I'm interested about how you would have handled this, or either one of you or both of you. So we had a caller come through our fundraiser director, who is a connection for our, like a donor so she's trying to build the donor relationship, and this is a parent who wanted to know which nursing home to put her daughter in while she's while she's being rehabilitated, because the group home or the Scylla where she lives, it's actually a Scylla, it's like a 15 to 20 bed place, won't accept her because now she's on oxygen, right? And so there's all of these like IL stuff that, gosh, it just makes you cringe. So the most that I could do, I felt like I had to explain to her what our mission is. Like, this is our mission. I'm going to send you the U.S. News and World Report tool for you to use, but really what our mission is this. I talked to our attorney about, like, does this seem right that they're even denying her access because she's on oxygen now, you know? So I went our way in terms of mission, but I felt like I needed to stay aligned, but also, and our donor director understood, like our fundraiser director understood where we're at. But there's, so there's like this tension that was going on in that INR call. So I didn't know how you would have handled that request.
So I wouldn't have, don't ever lose sight of your mission. And so no matter what that funder looks like, you're hoping that they're wanting to fund you because you're providing great IL services. So educating them and letting them know what you're all about, and then painting that picture of, did her daughter want to live in a nursing home? What does her daughter want? And kind of passing it back to the daughter, and then providing those resources that are in the community. But I mean, funder or not, you got to stick with IL and stay to your true colors.
Yeah, I don't think you want to have the tail wagging the dog. Stay true.
Yeah.
Hi, mine is two-part. What do we do when we are talking with a person for quite a while on the phone and we realize that maybe we really need to see them face-to-face to help them, and they refuse to do that? That's the first part. And then what do we do with someone who's extremely rude?
That's their choice. If they choose not to come in, let that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off your second part, but the first one is, I would say, if they don't want to come in and follow up to provide or to receive the services you're offering, that's their choice. Move on to the next caller.
Well, and then also, or making some time for an information or an independent living specialist or whatever they're called within your organization to take some time and maybe talk with them on the phone if you're thinking that they need more time and energy, and that could be an IL case that occurs, and you can provide that telephone service. So I think they're telling you that maybe they don't want to have anyone come to their home to work with them one-on-one. And so maybe that's going to take some more work to talk with them too.
I think we just wanted more information to make sure we had all the information we needed so that we could help direct them, and she was not willing. And yes, we did say, when you're ready, we will be here to help you.
And sometimes folks aren't ready for you to come out to their home. They may be embarrassed of whatever their situation is. We've had that, so sometimes we'll offer, well, what about at the library? Can we meet you at the library or wherever?
She didn't want to do any of those. And then
so they weren't ready.
Yeah. And then the other was, what if you have someone that's extremely rude? I mean, very rude.
We have rude callers. I'm sure
Really?
you do too. We do.
Only in South Carolina.
And they get really mad. Yeah, only. They get really mad because we won't do things for them. And so we have to let them know that we're on their team. Like, we're supporting them. We're a person with a disability. We've got their bags, but they've got to take the lead. And keep working with them and establishing those relationships. Relationship building is so very important within working with consumers because you want to build that trust. People should never be mad at their sills because that's the community that we're representing. And of course, they're going to get mad at us because of how they grew up or how they're being treated with a disability. Now, people do things. It's very easy to do things for people instead of teaching people how to do for themselves. And we had a caller one time wanted us to come clean their house. And so we had to explain our sales. Well, what do you mean? Well, I have a disability. I can't do this when I'm in a wheelchair and yada, yada, yada. And so we said, let us come work with you and we'll show you how you can do it. And come to find out, she learned how to vacuum, and I mean, she did everything. She learned how to clean her house, and the feedback that we received from her, I mean, it was life-changing.
I think the key thing that...
Just to add to that, I think when your question about being rude to staff,
Yeah.
as a manager, my staff don't have to put up, none of my staff have to put up with rude behavior from a consumer. They don't. If they're being verbally abused and just being chastised, we don't need to put up with that.
I think that one thing that is a big back for me, it's the obvious, is talking about peer support. I'm a person with a disability as well. And just making that connection to make them understand, like you said, we're on the same team. Yeah.
And sometimes people are very mad when they call to us because they have been, the way that they've been treated by state agencies and other service providers, they've got to see that we're different. And so sometimes they're coming in and they're mad and they're raging because nobody will help them. And that's where we've got to calm down. We have somebody on our staff, Dory Tempio, who takes all of the hard calls. And because she's got that soft voice and she's really encouraging, and you want to make sure you have someone like that on your staff so that they can calm that tone down.
A lot of times with that, if you have somebody who's really angry, if you have that calming voice, it's literally like taking a pin to a balloon. It takes all the hot air out of it.
Yeah.
It just deflates people right down. I mean, how can you argue with calmness?
Right. Let's put you in your Zen space.
Yeah. Question.
Hello, good morning. I have a question. You were talking about Hope and her doing that INRs over the phone, but then you started talking about that conducting intakes. So you do intakes over the phone, like in the first contact with them?
So getting their information, getting their demographics and what they're calling about. Yeah, we do that initially over the phone. What we don't do typically over the phone is goal setting. And so that's that one-on-one direction, unless somebody is wanting more supports via the phone. And so that's when we would, or via Skype or whatever they prefer. But yeah, it's always great, and that takes a little bit off of our IL staff as well, because they don't have to do that initial intake. And then immediately when they're calling our organization, they're in our system.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question is, sometimes we're running into this a lot lately, is somebody will call and they will talk with somebody, get that initial contact going, and then me being a specialist, I will then contact them again and follow up, and they don't answer. And then so that we kind of gave them some information or didn't, or whatever happened. I don't when I don't know what was given. I usually, what I go by is I call every day for 3 days and then weekly after that. I mean, do you guys run into that? And how often do you call after that? And then when do you decide, hey, maybe I should just let it go for now?
And well,
Three strikes, you're out? Yeah.
Phones get disconnected. There's a number of things, but what we typically do is we'll call, and then we'll send a note and just say, hey, this is, we're Able, South Carolina, we're here, give us a call. We've been trying to get in touch with you, and usually, they'll call back. Yeah.
And if we don't get contact, usually after 3 attempts, then that's the signal to us that they're not that serious about receiving services.
And just document that in your system that you've attempted to call 3 times, or you sent a letter and then they haven't been.
Because with that too, April, is that I can get messages from consumers saying, I've tried to talk to your staff all week long and they never call me back. And what I do then is get the other side of the story and talk to staff, and they tell me, I've tried 4 times this week, and
it's documented,
and I've made those attempts, but they haven't returned or whatever. So I think if you make your reasonable attempt to get a hold of people and go back, and they don't respond, you don't take it personally, but then that
They're not ready.
indicates and they're not ready, and move on to the next caller. Do people see more and more folks with a sense of entitlement these days? Oh my gosh, right? What's happening? I mean, I remember, years ago, I had in a previous job elsewhere, I had a job opening at the center, and a guy wheels into my office. He says, "I have a disability, and I know you have a job opening. You owe me a job." No, seriously. And I just looked at him. I said, "Sorry, sir, but I don't owe you anything." That sense of entitlement, my goodness, it just seems more pervasive lately. I don't know, but
That's the
Go
way
ahead.
that it's way that they're treated in schools. I mean, they're kind of passed through typically, and these expectations, and that's what we've got to change.
yeah, I mean, yeah. When it comes to expectations, I think, like especially in schools, to me, it's like, if you set the expectations really low, people are going to live down to those expectations. They are. But if you set as the standard and the expectations high of someone, like you're talking about the house cleaning, if you set expectations high, there's a greater chance that people are going to strive to meet those higher expectations if those are in fact their goals. But we do that with kids and through the school systems.
Yeah.
I'm not a parent myself, but I know, in parenting, if you're setting your goals and your expectations high of your kids, they're going to strive for it. But if you set them low, well, my kid has a disability, or the kid, you can't expect much. Really?
Yeah.
So, sorry. Amina.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that sometimes people don't call back because they've got what they needed. They're calling a bunch of different people. So
Yeah.
also remember that for that
Yeah.
person answering the phone.
Right.
And the other thing is, I learned a long time ago, because I was the advocacy director, so I'd always get people who are really upset about things, and they'd be blah, 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 telling their whole life story and everything. Well, I'm attention deficit, and I would stop them and say, please stop. I need you to tell me what you need so that I can make sure that I get it to you. Because and then tell me your story, because then I'll know how to hear your story. And amazingly, people would stop, they'd get calm, they'd tell me what they needed, and we could go on. Because I was telling the truth. I would not be able to follow that long story that they were telling me.
I think we're probably at the end of our time.
Yeah.
Right? Good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.